Maybe we'll just wait just one more minute before we get started. It looks like there's still some people who are joining us. Thank you, Wendy. That's nice. Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our second Lunchroom series workshop. I'd like to begin today's workshop with the acknowledgement that Creative Saskatchewan and the people we serve span the entire province of Saskatchewan. The land on which we gather are the traditional lands of Treaties 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10, which encompasses the unceded territories of the Nahiawak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Dene nations, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Today's Lunchroom workshop is being recorded and will be made available for later viewing on our website, www.creativesaskatchewan.com or creativesask.com. If you do not wish to participate in today's recorded workshop, you will be given the option to leave the meeting when the recording begins. So recording has begun. If you're not comfortable, you are free to excuse yourself. At the end of the workshop today, Toby is going to take us into the second half of the workshop, where she's going to be talking about the Market and Export Major Stream. And she also has an exciting announcement to share with the group about an upcoming professional development workshop opportunity. So stick around. Things are going to get exciting. So in terms of questions, how we're going to handle that this morning or this afternoon is there's a Q&A box that's sort of at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions for our guest speaker or for Toby, please type them in the Q&A box, and we're going to try to address those questions at the end of the interview and then towards the end of Toby's presentation. So thank you so much, and I appreciate that. So without any further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker for today's workshop on Creative Saskatchewan's Market and Export Development Grant, Chris Morien. Chris Morien is a drummer, artist manager, and label owner from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. He has been performing with Close Talker for the past 7 years across Canada, USA, and Europe. Close Talker's latest release, How Do We Stay Here, was a launching point for Chris's label Slow Weather, which also features artists Motorbike James and Wyatt C. Louie. With Slow Weather, Chris strives to match the care and attention artists put into their craft with marketing and campaign strategies. It's early days for the label, which is meant to be a sustainable home for artists to grow and develop their career in music. So welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So my first question is a long one, and it's a multi-part question. So hopefully you have the strength to tackle this. So my first question is that Close Talker has received a Market and Export Major Stream Grant from Creative Saskatchewan in 2018 and a Market and Export Micro Stream Grant in 2020. So can we talk a little bit about the goals that Close Talker had set out for the MED Major Grant in 2018? What were you looking to achieve with that grant?
Yeah, no, totally. I think just as like a precursor, I tend to ramble. So if you have questions, I think we're just throwing them in the chat. Feel free to get that in there, and then I'll try to follow up and answer it as we go. But yeah, so we received the major, I forget the full title, but we received the major stream for the marketing grant as part of our album release. And so that project was basically all of the marketing components that went into promoting this album that we had wrote and recorded. As far as goals, I think with any new release or any project, there's some kind of general ones that most artists have, like growing your audience, selling albums, increasing ticket sales, and just like kind of expanding and growing your career. We wanted to, we've had some considerable growth in Europe over the past like 5 years. And so that was a big target for us in this campaign, was really trying to strive into some of new markets where we started seeing some success in past releases, and we really wanted to double down on that and grow. So our goals were kind of like, here's what's worked in the past. Let's see if we can expand that and make the pot a little bit bigger for us. As far as like the actual nitty gritty efforts and projects as part of the grant, big thing is creative materials. So this is an album. We had already wrote and recorded the music, but just like getting all of the creative assets together to support that. We really wanted art to be a big focus of this, so we collaborated with different videographers, photographers, art designers, just a whole whack of very creative people to build out that team and make sure that there was all the visual components to support the music. And then from there, the funding went towards publicity, radio, advertising, distribution, and all these different promotion efforts to support the album release and our touring efforts that were going on at the same time. So that was kind of the project, I guess.
It was
overall.
really
Yeah.
like very big and all encompassing, right? Like if there was multiple activities going on, where you're putting several wheels into motion.
Totally.
Yeah. And so as compared to the micro MED that you received in 2020, can you talk about some of the differences between those two programs, so that people know a little bit more about what the difference is?
Yeah. So the micro stream we got, that was 2 years later, and it was kind of as like a phase 2 to the album release. We ended up releasing a deluxe version of the record. So there's a couple new songs and one single in particular that we wanted to push a bit harder. It was also during kind of the height of COVID, and we weren't able to tour or anything. So the focus on the micro stream was really around one single, in particular more of a radio promotion campaign with that. So as far as differences go, the major stream was like, for me, running a marketing campaign for an album or any project, because I know there's some folks here that aren't just focused on music. It's kind of hitting all of these different areas and seeing what works and where people are responding to. For the micro stream for us was, okay, we know this is an area where we don't need to tour necessarily. We can get some pretty impactful results in terms of getting good exposure and royalties through radio airplay. So we kind of had a bit more targeted approach with a smaller goal in mind with the micro stream. The major is kind of like, let's hit everything and go full out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I want to talk a little bit about the MED major in terms of the team that you assembled to sort of help you with the release.
Yeah.
How did you put your team together to make this project? So how did you decide what you needed in your team?
Yeah. I think this is a topic that comes up a lot with, like, I've worked with different artists that are working on grant projects, and the team is usually a component of how they're scored and everything. And just as like a side note, like, I don't think it's always necessary to have a team of other people that are working on a project. In a lot of ways, like, I'm a big fan of the DIY approach. So if you know that you're going to do something the best and you have the skill set or the experience to pull that off, like, that's great. That you don't need someone else to do that aspect. Sometimes it just becomes like, oh, there's so much work. I want to get someone else that has these specific connections and just the ability to pull those projects off. So for our team, we've been working with the same people for a lot of years. So we kind of leveraged those people in management and publicity. Actually, with this release, we worked with a new publicist that we hadn't worked with before. So we kind of look at our past campaigns and learn from that, who we worked with in the past, and if we liked what they did and what they brought to the table, we hired them again or worked with them again. And then there was areas where, you know, we hadn't had much radio support in the past, or like had a specific person working in radio, and this is a campaign where like it was a lot of connecting with new people, as Karen mentioned. Like this was a launching point for our label, and I wanted to use it to build our connections outside of Canada, and get some folks in the US to do more radio and publicity. So a lot of like cold emailing and just hitting people up that we didn't know, and lots of conversations and figuring out like who's the right person and how can they contribute to us. So kind of using what we know from past work, and then also like if we really find that an aspect is important to the campaign, like with radio promotion in this case, we would kind of look outside of our current circle to bring those people in.
Awesome. Okay, so the second question I think you've maybe already addressed. So how important is it to have the right team behind a marketing campaign? And you did talk about how you you don't necessarily think that that's always the best way to go in terms of you know. So can you speak to that a little bit? Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, like I think with that, like no one is going to care about your thing as much as you are. So keep that in mind, I guess, when you're speaking to people. Like how passionate are they? Are they like really interested in what you're doing, or is it kind of like they're trying to fill up their calendar or whatever? Not saying that's the case with most people, but I found that the best results came from people that were very passionate about what we were doing, and they believed in what we were doing. So sometimes I would there's a couple folks that I would talk to, and like it wouldn't even be something I take personally. Like with an art form, it can be really, this is sort of like separating yourself from your craft when you go into a marketing campaign, because it is like not so much, like it is very much about the art itself, but as far as working with other people, they're running their own business and stuff like that. So you kind of have to, it's a very strange gray area to navigate. But just like I'd ask people straight up, like, do you like this? Are you willing to put your name behind it and try to like make something happen here? And the best results always came from the people that were like, yes, this is absolutely what I want to do. And like we have some horror stories that I won't get into of working with people that were just like not into it that much, or they initially were, but they were either too busy or not committed enough to pull it off. So there is like a downside to even working with someone who's got like a good track record, and probably does do really great work, but maybe it's just not the right fit for your project. So yeah, just finding the right people. It's like with any relationship you have, like you want to find someone who cares about what you're doing,
right.
so that, you know, they're going to do good for you and you're going to be happy with what their work is.
So finding the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So you talked a little bit about the types of activities that you did with the Market and Export Development Grant for 2018. Can you expand on that a little bit? So like what kind of activities did you undertake to like reach new listeners and markets with the release of the album? So what specific strategies were you employing?
Yeah, so we partnered with a European label for this release, and we've worked with, this is our first time working with them. Germany in particular was a big country of growth for us, particularly with streaming. So this campaign was about leveraging our team there and focusing a lot of digital promotion and radio promotion in Europe. And that really helped with our touring over there later. But that was like a huge area of growth, just like if we're looking at more of the quantitative metrics and stuff like that. I think leveraging that team for streaming and digital airplay and stuff like that was really huge for us. Radio in the US, we worked with the college radio team called Caribird, and they took our album to kind of select US college and campus stations, and or I guess North America. So there was a campaign that stretched into Canada and in the US, and that for us was kind of twofold: getting exposure to help with streaming and other airplay, but also part of our touring plan. I guess I've kind of touched on this, but maybe not so specifically. Everything that we do in our marketing plan really spills into the other areas. Like if we're seeing a success happening in one area, it always, you can use that to leverage something else. So we might make a video and we'll use our publicist to promote that new video, and that will get a blog or whatever that will get sent through our distribution to different teams at Spotify or Apple Music or something like that. And maybe through our social media strategy, we'll see our streams go up, and then we can use that playlist ad from Spotify to get more radio airplay, and that turns into touring sales because more people are hearing us in their local community. And so it all like flows into itself. So this radio campaign was really about looking at where our touring efforts were planned for and making sure that we had that coverage in that area. So yeah.
Okay, then I'm going to jump into my next question, which has to do with the touring and the market and export development, and how they sort of fit together. So Close Talker had multiple tour bookings in Canada, the US, and Europe in 2019 and 2020. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so was in support of the album release for How Do We Stay Here. And so these two, both the tour and the marketing campaign, were supported through Creative Saskatchewan. So can you talk a little bit about how those two things helped each other, like in terms of support and how that, I think
yeah, definitely. They're entirely related, especially like in that marketing aspect. Touring, like it is its own thing, but it's also a big part of our marketing plan with releasing an album. Like I think this is sort of more of a common phrase now, but where a lot of artists used to tour in support of an album, it's more so you release an album to support a tour, because touring has become this like much more reliable income source. And yeah, so they're super, I don't know if that's like clear cut for every single artist, and especially outside of music, I know that doesn't necessarily cross over the same way, but it is a big component to our marketing plan is touring and playing live. So I think the tour support grant, I look at it as more of the like logistics behind pulling off a tour. Like it's helping to fund transportation costs, hiring tech and different support people to support the tour. Travel is probably one of the biggest expenses. Just you're physically having to go across the country or fly to Europe or wherever. That's like a big component of getting that support. And then marketing can help in tandem to make sure that the tour is successful. So with our publicists that we worked with, we had arranged sort of a life of project deal where it wasn't so much promoting just the album, it was promoting the whole album cycle, where they would be looking for support whenever we'd release a new single or the album or new video and stuff like that. But as soon as we got into the tour itself, they were shifting their efforts to look for more local press and getting more radio opportunities to go and do interviews and things like that can help drum up support for that local show in each market that we're going to. So they definitely are, there's so much crossover between the two projects that way.
both are very tied to building momentum, and getting attention, and being able to access those new markets. And so thanks so much for talking about that, because I think sometimes our applicants don't really, like, a lot of our programs do work in tandem that way, and often market and export is something that can really elevate the ability to gain momentum for a project. Whether or not it's a music project. It is like one of our most popular grant programs, and we have multiple applications every intake, and with either the major or the micro, and just understanding like how valuable that is as a tool to you as a creative entrepreneur, to be able to have that help with accessing new markets, being able to get out there, being able to hire additional people to assist you with that work. So thanks so much for talking about that. So let's talk about success, and in terms of measuring the success of the market and export campaign that you did in 2018 with the album release. Would you call it a successful campaign, and how did you measure that success?
Yeah, 100% it was a success. I think in terms of the grant project, it's looking maybe a bit more of the, like, what things can we quantify? And I think that for us, we definitely hit those points that we were looking for in terms of growth and numbers, like ticket sales and album sales, etc. Like all of those hit our goals or exceeded them most of the case. And really, like, I think success is a very tricky thing to define, especially in a creative space where, like, for me, success is making the album, and you don't have to put it out or anything, like just creating it. That's a success. It really comes down to how do you define your goals? What do you want to have happen with this? We've gone through phases where our goals have changed over the years, where there might be a good opportunity to play a certain type of show or a festival, but we'd like realize after that, like, this wasn't really related to where we wanted to take things. And so even though there might be like a good guarantee being offered for doing a project, we could kind of take a step back and be like, does this align with where we want to take things, and make a decision like, okay, it would be nice to get that certain guarantee, but this doesn't align with where we want to take things. So we're going to say no to that opportunity because it doesn't make sense with what we define as success in our career. So it really comes down to, like, you don't have, I think when we first started, we were kind of like, let's say yes to everything and do all of the different things that come our way. And over the course of our career, we've become a little bit more, I don't want to say picky, but we've become a bit more selective with what we do, because it needs to make sense for where we want to take ourselves as artists and as a business. So as far as defining success, it's different for everyone. And I think, like, it's just about defining, like, what those goals are. For us, we wanted to have growth in streaming, ticket sales, album sales, a lot of those quantifiable things, and we were able to hit those through the help of this market and export grant. But also a big part of it for us was more qualitative stuff and mental health as artists, because that's something that I think we've struggled with, and putting our physical and mental health aside in the interest of this project. We'll just, like, give anything and everything to make it happen. And for us, this was a huge success because we went through the process and felt really good and sustained, and it just, like, it wasn't as taxing as some of our previous efforts have been. It just felt like we were not so tied to certain expectations that we were placing on ourselves. I think that's, like, a trap that I've gotten into, but also just with artists I work with, it can be a thing where you're like even we'll talk about playlist ads for a second. Generally, those come out on Fridays. Every Friday, they'll launch a new playlist on Spotify or whatever, and you release a new song that week, and there's sort of this like anticipation of, oh, what if our song gets added to this thing? It would mean so much, and blah blah blah. And I've had situations where we were waiting for it and it didn't happen, and so that you're instantly like dropped and like, oh, like my music sucks and I'm no good, I don't have any talent, and you just ride that wave so heavy. And I don't think that's healthy at all, because then you just stop putting the effort in, because you're tying your success into something that's totally out of your control. And then on the flip side, I've had situations where there's this anticipation for this thing, and then it comes out, and maybe we even get a bigger playlist or radio ad or whatever. Maybe it's like bigger than what we were expecting. And then I've had kind of the same reaction in a way of like, oh, sick, we're the best, we don't need to do any more work. Like now I don't, like, the work is done because all of these things have happened. So I've tried to like reframe how I work with running marketing campaigns with the other artists that I'm working with. And like, I won't lie, I'm still going to look for those, just use the same example, radio ads or playlist things or publicity, like blog posts or whatever. You're still going to look for those things, but I try not to define that as success of the entire project, because like, just because one thing isn't working doesn't mean another area is, and because one thing isn't working doesn't mean it's not happening forever. It just means, okay, maybe it'll come up in a few months, or maybe on the next release or something like that. So that's for us one of our biggest successes through this campaign was really learning to separate ourselves on the like mental health side of things, and not be so tied to those expectations, and more focused on our goals and on things that we can do. And yeah, and it worked out.
That's a really, really awesome answer. And thank you so much for addressing that in terms of being able to set goals that aren't necessarily tied to, being ultimately crushed if things don't happen the way that you had, wanted them to. I'm going to shift gears, and I'm going to ask you one more question. Just, we have like a minute left on our half session. So I wanted to ask you, so has Close Talker always been business minded in their goals, or was there a time earlier in the band's career where it became necessary to begin implementing more entrepreneurial efforts or strategies?
Yeah, we definitely haven't always been. It's been like a slow change over time, and I think like when we started our band because we love music and we liked playing music together, and that's kind of our first goal, is like making sure that this is still fun and enjoyable, and an creative outlet for us. And over time it just became a bit more of a thing where, okay, we can't afford to do this thing, go on this tour, play this festival, because we don't have the money to do that. So maybe we should start implementing some strategies on like making this more sustainable for us in like a business way. The smartest thing we did right away was get a bank account, and any money that we got, we put in there and we'd save it. And so that allowed us to pull the trigger anytime like an opportunity came up. We could be able to say yes to those opportunities. And we also grinded a lot. We would kind of exist as cheaply as we could, touring and at home and everything, just so we could kind of get out on the road and play and put money behind different projects that we wanted to do. We're also very privileged in our own lives to be in a good financial position, to not have to work day jobs all of the time, but or have to take time off work and stuff like that. So I think it for us, it was all natural steps of, okay, we hit this thing, how do we get here? And then it just sort of kept stepping more and more as we got to where we are today.
Awesome. Oh, that was so great. Thank you so much. I so appreciate the chat. And let me just, do we have anything in the Q&A that we can, doesn't look like it. I think we got some questions maybe in the chat here. Can the major stream be used to create we can talk about that with Toby. Anybody have any specific questions for Chris at this time? You did such a good job of explaining. No one has any questions. Look at you.
There we go.
So thanks very much for joining us today, Chris, and explaining a lot about Close Talker's relationship with that particular grant and how it assists you. And my last question is, so what are some of the benefits of Creative Saskatchewan support?
Yeah, the benefits, I think like I kind of just alluded to it a bit, but obviously that it can take this financial hurdle away from pulling off certain projects or marketing efforts, tours, whatever like that. That is such an amazing opportunity to have for artists, especially I guess creative entrepreneur is maybe the word that you suggested earlier. Yeah, having that can be some of the biggest challenges. Is like, I have this great idea, I know I can pull it off, but I just don't have the finances to do that. And that's such a huge benefit of the program, that it allows us as artists to achieve what we really want to with our careers. So yeah, thank you for the support.
And thank you. So I'm going to turn it over now to our program manager, Toby Lampard, and she is going to talk through the Market and Export Development Major Program stream, and hopefully answer all your questions. And thanks again, Chris, and stick around. There might be some questions.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Karen and Chris. That was just great. My name is Toby Lampard. I am the program manager here at Creative Sask. I'm going to walk you through the Market and Export Major stream. We're going to take a deep dive. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Hopefully it works. Karen and Andrea, if anything goes kind of weird, can you give me the heads up? So here we go. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen all right. And if not, I hope Karen or Andrea will just give me the heads up. But here we go, deep dive into the Market and Export Major stream provided by Creative Sask. So just for those who might be new to Creative Sask, we support the following creative sectors: book publishing, craft, visual arts, film and television, interactive digital with all kinds of games development for the primary use, live performing arts, and music. So those are the sectors. And Creative Sask provides grant support to these sectors, as well as support to the sector's industry associations. The industry associations help with professional development along with marketing opportunities. So for book publishing, the industry association is Sask Books. For craft and visual arts, we have Sask Galleries that works with the Saskatchewan Galleries, and the Saskatchewan Craft Council that works with both craft artisans and visual artists. For film and television, we have Sympia, the Saskatchewan Media Production Industry Association. For interactive digital, Sask Interactive. For live performing arts, there's the Saskatchewan Association of Theatre Professionals, and Sask Music works with Sask, with music. They work with Sask Music. So Creative Sask is very proud to be working with these industry associations and helping funding their activities. Okay, now into the grant. So the Market and Export Development Grant provides support to individuals and businesses for market access and market development opportunities intended to improve visibility and generate sales. And as Chris alluded to, he spoke about new markets for Close Talker in Germany, working in the US. That's exactly what this grant is made to help support. Just quickly, there are two streams. We had an earlier lunchroom session that focused on the micro stream. That is going to be on our website next month. under the Discovery menu tab, which hopefully will be easy, but it'll be there if you want to have a deeper dive into the microstream. But just to refresh your memory, microstream is for smaller marketing opportunities for a maximum of $5,000 or 50% of the budget. Applicants are limited to 1 per fiscal. It's assessed internally and with some marketing professionals. We aim to get results within 3 weeks past the deadline. So if there's a quick turnaround, and you're able to reapply with unsuccessful applications twice per year, as long as the activity hasn't happened before the time of application. Just quickly, these are the deadlines coming up for the microstream. Everything's on our website, so please check it out. And if you're interested, they're all there. Okay, now we're going to go into the major stream. So as Chris spoke to earlier, with his microstream, Close Talker helped market their single. With their major, they were looking at their album. And you can see by the numbers here, for the major, you can apply up to $25,000 or 50% of the eligible expenses for that fiscal year. Or if you're doing a really big marketing campaign that is longer, you can apply for up to $50,000 or 50% over a 24-month period. So if it's a really large scale marketing initiative, that option is open to you. Just a note that in terms of the market and export, these numbers include both streams. So if you receive a micro grant for $5,000, that will affect how much you can apply for major. It can sometimes be a little confusing, so we always say hop on the phone if you have any questions, send us an email. The program team will be happy to figure out what you're eligible to apply for. Okay, so next we're talking about, we talked a bit about this, sorry, with the major stream, the deadlines do change which sector you're applying for. So you want to go on the website and get familiar with what sector you're applying for and the deadlines. The major stream is a juried grant, and it takes longer to receive those results. Available typically within 10 weeks of the deadline because they are completely assessed by a jury. We're going to talk about the assessment criteria soon. If you are unsuccessful with a major grant application, you can reapply just like the micro one, as long as the activities haven't happened before the time of application. Here are the deadlines per sector, so you can have a glance at that, but they are all on the website. You can check it out. If those of you who have subscribed to our newsletter, Spotlight, we send reminders out through Spotlight of upcoming deadlines. So you might want to sign up for that on the website if you're interested. One note, if these deadlines fall on a stat or a weekend, it's the next business day that we'll accept the applications. We're always a 4 p.m. shop here, so get those applications in by 4 p.m. The also quick note is we work on the government fiscal. So if you're familiar with government starts April 1st to March 31st. That's where our deadlines go over 2021 to 22 because we're working on that government fiscal year. That's very exciting stuff. Let's get into what the grant can help support. So this is some examples of all the sectors. With music or production of music and promotional videos, book trailers are very popular as well for publishing. Author tours, travel to market, fairs, trade shows to sell your products, production of distribution of promotional items to the industry, advertising campaigns, updating your website, marketing assets, hiring marketing and social media experts, working with publicists, and the production and marketing of live stream performances, which is very important for music and live performing arts. And as we listened to Chris share his stories, I heard a lot about working with publicists, working with radio promoters. They can be really good people in your team, especially if you're working in a different geography location, if you're working in Europe. For example, you're going to the Toronto International Film Festival, you might want to work with someone who knows the Toronto area really well. So just an example from film. Here are some examples of successful applications to the major marketing grant, all the lists of all the recipients of our grants are on our website and in our annual report, so you can always check that out to see what people are doing. With visual arts, we've got some galleries enhancing their online presence. The Black Spruce Gallery, Slate Fine Art Gallery here in Toronto is going to the Toronto International Art Fair. In film and TV, Cheshire Smile Animation has their 20th anniversary, which is so exciting to have a company celebrating its 20th anniversary. They're doing a brand refresh. Karma Films shot a feature film just this year in Saskatchewan, and they're going to be doing a pre-marketing release for that feature film. And there's a new web series coming up from Zarka. It's actually called Zarka, and she was the creator of Little Mosque on the Prairie. So she's accessing some marketing funds to get that off the ground or released. With book publishing, we've got University of Regina Press going to international markets, Radiant Press doing a digital marketing campaign. And of course, music. We spent a lot of time on music today with Chris, but there's a list of some great Saskatchewan artists marketing albums and doing marketing campaigns. All right, so let's dive into some nitty-gritty. Like all granting agencies, we're going to say, go to the website, read some really exciting guidelines with a very strong cup of coffee, strong cup of tea. If you like sugary drinks, have a sugary drink, and sit down and read these guidelines. It's kind of not the most exciting thing, but it will save you time in the long run, so we can't say it enough. Read them through if you're still, and then give us a call with questions. Like I'll say multiple times through the presentation today, always contact Creative SAS programming team. Karen and Andrea will always, and myself, will happily geek out on assessment criteria and questions. After a while, you get kind of a rush from it, which is strange, but there you go, it happens. So we're gonna go into the assessment criteria next, and that's basically how the major is scored. This assessment criteria is important to understand. And like I say, if you don't quite understand it, give us a call. We're so happy to chat about it. So for the market and export major stream, here is what the jury is scoring you on. There are 9 criteria. What are you marketing? Basically, give an overview of what's being marketed and why it's commercially viable. Why you think you're going to be able to help sustain your career and build and have great impact by reaching a particular market, which goes into number 2. What are you marketing? Be clear. And who is your audience? How have you researched to get to that audience? Like Chris was speaking about, he was talking about Germany and having success there, or monitoring other areas where you see some success. You want to build it. Those are great anecdotes and stories to share with the jury. You want to talk about next steps. Why is it the logical time to do this activity and this project now? If you just recorded an album or you're going on tour, that is, the stars align. That is great. You just filmed a feature film or releasing your television series. It's a great time to do this activity. And you want to explain that to the jury. They won't know, so you have to outline it to them. You want to describe your goals, which is basically what impact is this going to have? And then your project financing. How are you going to finance the other 50% of the project? We're going to dive into that a little more too. Do you have, what's your established market reach? Where are you in your career? And then what is the plan? What does this marketing plan look like? What are these activities that you're hoping to accomplish? And then the team, we talked a lot about the team. Certain team members, it's important, that passion for your project. Do they know the demographic you're trying to reach? The location you're working on? Those are all things you want to address in the team. And the timeline, hey, we all need a schedule, and we all try to keep to it. And I'm trying to keep to the 1 o'clock schedule, so I'm going to keep moving along. So on our website, here's a screenshot. We've got that discovery button up at the top. Again, that's where you're going to be able to see some of these old lunch and learns. If you're really interested, you can have a view and watch them. Also, this is where you can log into your GMS account. Now, we call it GMS, but it's basically our online application portal. It stands for Grant Management System. But this is where we take all our applications. This is where you do your final reporting, and also you can see past successful and unsuccessful applications. So there's also other, when you go to the investment programs, there's other clicks to get to our system. So there's lots of ways to go through it. So with the last Lunchroom series we did on micro, Lisa, one of the program officers here, spoke a lot about marketing plans and jury feedback. On this session, I'm going to take you through a little bit of the GMS system, our grant management system. So some of you, it'll be new. Some of you, it'll be a refresher. So here we go. When you log into your online account, this is what you see. You see your welcome page, some helpful tips. You see your to start an application tab, active application tab, and your templates and additional materials, which is very important because we have budget templates and whatnot. So a lot of you will be familiar with this. Some of it will be new. You'll see a lot of prompts when you get online to visit guidelines, to reach out to us, to have that video chat or email or call. We just want to make sure that we appreciate how much time these applications take. So we want to make sure that you're eligible. We want to make sure that the activity is eligible. When you scroll down, you have an applicant profile and applicant information. The applicant profile is set up when you sign up for your account, but the application information, the jury sees this, and it's a really useful box because it's there for the jury to look at. So I'm just going to go through, how do you get there? So you go up to the corner, top right corner, where you have your initial and a circle, and you hit profile, like many online accounts. You click edit, and then you can edit. You update your information, change it if you moved. You can also put your biography in, which is what the jury can see. You can get them really excited about where you are in your career and what you're doing. And then you can also upload your resume, CV, and your marketing plan. You might have a business marketing plan, you might have a specific marketing plan, but you can upload it so it's always there in the uploaded documents. You click and save, and there it is in the applicant information, and the jurors can see that and access it. So I just wanted to give you a little heads up on that. And how do we get to it? Because like with every online system, there's some little nuances you want to get familiar with. When you start your application, you've got a declaration. Again, that's to help you figure out if you are eligible for our grants. Are you a business? Are you a sole proprietor individual? It sort of walks you through it. If someone's helping you with your grant, you can call it, you go third-party declaration, and you put their email in, and then they'll be notified of any questions or grant results as well. You've got your project summary, where it gives a nice, great summary of what you're doing. And you have your project details. Now the project details, if you remember, we talked about the assessment criteria. And basically this is the assessment criteria right here. We give you some suggested word length. You can write as much as you want. These are just suggestions. And you can save your work. We say save it often because you don't know if there's going to be a power outage. Those who were in Regina last night, we had a major power outage for at least 3 hours, I'm guessing. So you want to save. Also, if you're like me who loves to back stuff up, you can print a PDF and save your application as a PDF as well, if you just like to have things on hand. Here's the rest of the criteria, all laid out for you, just like we went through before. It's got the scores, it's got everything that the jury is going to be seeing, and the jury sees it exactly like this. There's an additional information area where you can add more information, and of course, save and submit applications. Okay, timing's important. You want to plan out when the deadlines are for your sector, and you need to know that it's 10 weeks after the deadline you'll get results. So that might affect your timeline. If you need to know if you received the funds or not to go ahead, you might want to put that in your timeline and figure out when you're going to have results back from Creative Saskatchewan. Give yourself the gift of time. Andrea and Karen will probably be sick of me saying this, but we all know grant writing is a skill, but it gives you time to think about your business skills, where you're taking your business, what activities you're going to do. It's my lovely clip art here, but if the project is the caterpillar, eventually it's going to be a beautiful monarch butterfly. You need to think about it. You need to give yourself some time. whether you're successful with your application or not, you are going to be successful if you give yourself the time to think about your project and activities. It's never a waste of time to apply for a grant. At least that's what I believe. And maybe a few others might too. When you're putting everything together, think about that timeline, think about your team, who are your suppliers, and research that budget. You want to make sure that your costs are well researched and you have the funds to achieve your goals. Just a little tip, what I like to do when I used to apply for grants is ask a friend to look at your budget first, or a colleague, then get them to read the application. It's really interesting, the questions they might have. It might be the same questions the jury has. And you always want to try to get an application that's clear, concise, easy to read, and a jury member can get excited, not kind of like, well, you budgeted for a music video, but you didn't talk about a music video. I'm confused. You really want to try to get it to be an easy read, and you really try to answer all those questions. So that's kind of a good aspect to try if you want to. Again, you're going to have to leave yourself the time to do that. Now, when we go into budgets, in the earlier Lunch and Learn, Lisa, as I mentioned before, she went through the budget template. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, other than we are a government agency, so we do have guidelines and rules. We try to put them in the template so it's easy while you're working away, but take the time, read them. If you have any questions, give us a call. This is a standard template we have for market and export major, and it lists all the eligible expenses. And of course, you'll see a lot of other lines because there are other things you might want to do that aren't captured in the template. But you do have to use our template. So just a note on that. Okay, we're going to talk about project financing. So Creative Sask will pay up to support up to 50% of the eligible expenses. So that means you as a creative entrepreneur need to get the other 50%. That might be through a funding agency, might be from your own personal contribution, crowdfunding, a third-party investment, but you really do have to think about that as you go into those applications. And just going back, you can see in the project financing, you'll have Creative Saskatchewan listed. You'll put the amount, maybe it's 50%, maybe it's less. And then you have your other financing sources, personal contribution. Maybe you have Factor if you're a musician. If you're in film and television, it might be the Canadian Media Fund marketing distribution or whatnot. So yeah. Okay, then you submit your application, which is congratulations, you did it. So exciting. You'll have the results, like I said, in about approximately 10 weeks. If you're approved, the program team will reach out and get you through the next steps. You'll receive an email, and it also will be on that GMS grant management system. So you can always log in and see if your application is being reviewed and the status. If you're not approved, you know what? That's part of the career. It's rejections. Sometimes with entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurship is just part of the jury. We value your time. We try to provide information to help future applications. So you'll be provided with your scores, the average scores of those who are successful in getting funding, and any feedback, that consensus feedback we've been given by the jury. So that is also all on the online management system under results tab. So it's a really nice hub to keep everything together. Okay, with the marketing plan, I'm just going to end with marketing plan. I've said it before, our other Lunch and Learn, our Lunchroom series, Lisa spent more time on marketing plans. So if you want to go use that as a resource, please do. But there are other resources. We mentioned the creative industries that we help fund. We've got, with publishing, we've got Sask Books. With craft, we have the Saskatchewan Craft Council, Sask Galleries for galleries, Sympia for film and television, Sask Interactive for digital, SAPA for the theater professionals, and Sask Music. They provide export opportunities. They provide professional development. Strongly recommend you reach out to them. There are other resources as well. WESC, Women Entrepreneurship of Saskatchewan, is a non-profit membership-based organization. They have some great professional development and services, and you don't have to be a woman to participate in some of that professional development. So we strongly recommend you reach out to them. Connexus has an accelerator webinar sessions. They go over cash flow, marketing, social plans. It's really a great free resource. So I recommend you check them out as well. And then our past webinars and future professional opportunities. So here we go, my big announcement. Those of you might have known, we did a marketing workshop with Annalise Larson. That was, I think, in February. I might have my dates wrong, but we're doing another round. So Annalise is going to be doing another digital marketing workshop in September. Registration and how to apply to be in the workshop is going to come out in August. The actual workshop's happening in September. You do have to apply to, it's a short, very, very short application to apply to participate, but it is completely free. It's supported with Creative Saskatchewan and the Western Economic Diversification. So we're so happy that we can provide that again. If you were a past participant, take note, there'll be potentially something for you as well. So do watch your Spotlight e-newsletter or our social feeds to get more information. That is going to be announced in August, and the workshop's going to be happening in September. Again, you do have to apply to get into the workshop, and there is going to be some support for past participants, if any past participants are on the call today. So we're so excited to be working with Annalise again. She's really great at social media plans. She's an international star in our mind. So, okay, I think I've gone too long. That's it. If you have any questions, our staff is on our website, and you can book a video chat. And here we go, questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to come back in for any questions, I hope. Oop. Andrea, are you going to join us?
Sure, let me just pop on here. All right, so it looks like in the chat we had a question from Carol. She asked, can the Major Stream grant be used to create a DVD of a documentary to make multiple copies and then sell the DVD as an actual product? Or could the grant be used to produce a DVD/demo of a documentary series to pitch at festivals, etc.?
Yeah. I'll do the pitch one first. That's probably a good fit for the micro stream, where you could do a pitch. We also have the film and television development, pre-development stream. You might want to look into that. That might be a better fit. So I recommend you give us a call and we can walk you through both of those. We can get more information and make sure we direct you in the right way. With the major stream, you could do promotional DVDs, but not DVDs for sale. This is a marketing grant to support marketing activities, not for distribution and sales of the DVDs, but promotional, absolutely.
Awesome. The next question we have is from Frank, asking if you can qualify for both grants at the same time, meaning that you can apply for both book publishing and television at the same time for market and export development.
Yeah, it's capped by your applicant. So you get $25,000 per fiscal year. So if you're applying for a different activity, let's say you're publishing a book and you're marketing for that, then yes. And then let's say you're marketing for a digital app or whatnot, you could have two applications, but you're still going to be capped at that $25,000. Hopefully that makes sense.
The next question here is, can I use the grant to update my website? And can I hire anyone for this, or do they have to be in Canada?
Oh, yeah, you can. Okay, absolutely. Updating your digital assets, such as your website, absolutely is eligible. And no, there is no requirement to hire Saskatchewan talent or local. What you want to do, though, when you're talking about your team, is you want to explain why you're hiring outside, why this team member, why does it make sense to be working with this group, this specialist. Definitely, it could be geography reasons. They know this market really well, or they're really passionate about your business and it's the right team member. So you want to make sure you give that information to the jury so they understand why you're going outside of Saskatchewan and why it makes sense.
Sounds great. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat or the Q&A. So if anyone has any last minute questions they want to throw out there, just pop them into the Q&A or into the chat.
Did we hit it right at 1 o'clock?
We're a little
Pretty close.
We're tad over, just by a minute.
Ah! Okay. All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for spending your lunch hour with us, and reach out at any time to us. We're happy to help, and I hope this was informative. And another heartfelt thanks to Chris. Really appreciate your time, and to Karen, our wonderful interviewer, and of course Andrea. She just makes it all happen.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I guess we'll wrap it up.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.